there's that. 40-0, your primetime final between the Cowboys and the Giants. It was wet, it was wild, and it had some history in it. 40 points is the largest shutout victory in a Cowboys opener in the history of the franchise. 40 points is the largest shutout loss in an opener in Giants franchise history. Back in studio with the two-time Super Bowl champ, Bryant McFadden. B-Mac.
Yes, sir.
Thought we'd be having a different question, a different conversation here. We'd be asking different questions at this point, but 40-0. This one was 16-0 in a hurry and then sort of let go of the rope. The rain came. How do you make sense of a ball game this lopsided this early in the season?
Well, one team was really prepared. The other team was not. That team that was well prepared is considered to be one of the more talented teams in the NFC, and that talent was put on display for 4 quarters against the New York Football Giants tonight. Untimely mistakes by the Giants, not just offensively or defensively, but also in the team's game as well. Special teams was huge for the Dallas Cowboys, and that's what jump-started this snowball effect of miscues for the Giants. I mean, the Giants, that first drive looked pretty promising. They ran the football well. Daniel Jones was involved. It came to a halt. Makeable field goal. Bam. Blocked the kick. Not only did they block the kick, they picked it up and put points on the scoreboard. So for Dak Prescott, he was already playing with house money before stepping foot on the football field, taking any meaningful snap because of their defense. And then one thing about the New York Giants, because they got behind so early, they became predictable. And that's the last thing you want to be when you're playing against a bunch of elite-like pass rushers led by one of the best pass rushers in the NFC and the NFL and Micah Parsons, and you're telling them, we're throwing the football. They're not playing anything but passing opportunities, and that showcased with them, getting 7 sacks. Last time I checked, it was 7. I don't know if they just got a sack even though the game is still over, but that's what it feels like. But this just was an onslaught of miscues by the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys just taking advantage of it.
It's just jarring when you put it into context that this was a game you had a summer to prepare for against a divisional foe on a primetime national scale. In a year, you're supposed to take a step forward. You got to wipe it quick. You got to bury the tape, for lack of a better term here. If you're Daniel Jones, if you're Brian Daboll, how do you show up to practice this week, and what do you do to make sure that this is behind you, you can wipe it and move forward from it?
Attention to details is something that every team usually try to get better at. But also, too, for the New York Giants, in areas where you thought you were pretty good, you're not there just yet. Offensive line-wise, even though you played against an outstanding defensive unit in regards to rushing the passer, you're not there yet. Wide receiver-wise, you're not there yet. So there's some issues that they need to overcome, and this was a humbling experience, to say the least, for the Giants, because they were forced to eat humble pie for 4 quarters. And they have to digest that, go back, get back to the drawing board, look at the tape, see exactly what went wrong, and find a way to be able to showcase the team that we saw a year ago, a very, very scrappy team, even though they were never considered to be one of the more talented teams in their division in the NFL. They found ways to win ball games. They got to find a way to do that, because if you look at their schedule, they have the Arizona Cardinals, who we felt like could potentially be a homecoming, to say the least. Then it gets thick. They could have beat Washington today. So they're fighting as well. But outside of Arizona, if you look at their schedule, oh my goodness. San Francisco. By week 4, we don't know exactly what type of Seahawks team you will get, but they had to eat some humble pie today as well. The Dolphins, the Bills, and the Commanders week 7.
Look at the primetime slots.
That's what I'm saying, Joe. So they don't have any time to really cry over spoiled milk. Look at it, digest it, get better. Because if you're not careful, you can take another black eye next week.
Only once before has a team that made the playoffs the year prior come into an opener and lost by 40 or more points. That was the 2018 Buffalo Bills. So history in all the wrong ways for the New York Giants in this one. On the Cowboys side, B-Mac, it's a win. It's a big win. It's a big win against a divisional foe. But is it coachable? What do you take away from this game if you're trying to keep your team engaged heading into week 2?
Guys, this is how dominant we can be. keep your foot on the gas. We can do something historic, especially on the defensive side. Man, this is a talented team. Remember during our pregame show, I said this is one of the more talented teams in the NFC. When you look at the top 3 talented teams, you have to have the Cowboys in that conversation with the Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. And I said those 2 teams cover the spread easily, right? That's what the Cowboys did today. Offensively, you didn't really need to see a lot from Dak Prescott. You didn't really need to see a lot from Tony Pollard, even though he got 70-plus yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. That's encouraging because the last time we saw him, he was being carted off. But this is a team, if their defense can do something similar to this, and I'm not saying put points on the scoreboard week in and week out, but one thing we know they can do, they can sack the quarterback. They can put pressure on the quarterback. If they can do this, combined to with the additions, man, this thing can be very, 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 very entertaining for them moving forward.
Maybe a win of this magnitude or a win with this much space between you and your foe allows for a bigger picture look at things. This is a Cowboys team that has been great in the regular season. 12-win teams. They've established themselves as that. So you put one of these wins in a win column, but you always have one eye down the road. We can't start talking playoffs, but assuming that they are a playoff team, what do you want to see different from the Cowboys during this regular season?
Well, I want to see a Dak Prescott that can play his best football when the lights are at its brightest. That's the thing about the issues for the Cowboys. We know they've been able to display regular season success to get into the tournament, but for whatever reason, when they get into the tournament, their superstar-like players don't always shine as bright. And that has been the issue. If you go back to a year ago, I mean, they were right there with the Eagles. I mean, I'm sorry, not the Eagles, the San Francisco 49ers in that playoff loss. But the miscues is what hurt their chances in being able to advance. So this is a playoff caliber team. If they stay healthy, no question, I think they can get into the tournament. But for them, they have bigger aspirations. They want to get to Vegas. You know what I mean? Jerry Jones wants to get to Vegas. You know that. So what we see today going into this matchup, they've had career success. Dak Prescott, he's had career success against the Giants. The Giants in totality, they've dominated the Cowboys in totality. They dominated the Giants. So I didn't expect to see 40-pointer, you know what I mean? But this is something that they've been known to do. But moving forward, you know, when you play against some of the best teams in the NFL, this is what you want to do, get into the tournament, and then allow your superstar players to do what they've been called to do.
Lopsided doesn't begin to tell the story of this one. 40-0. It's the Cowboys over the G-Men in Week 1. Only one place to go from here. For the Giants, that's up. For us, that's what winners and losers next on HQ. And then from there, you go one other place. That's the All Things Covered with P2 and BMAC, sitting down with the biggest names in sports and entertainment each and every week for can't-miss conversations. Download, subscribe, and enjoy All Things Covered.